All right. Well, my next guest, lady and gentlemen, is someone from my own neighborhood. And this is Mr. Orphee Mickalad. So, bote and bonjour.
Bote, kia ora. How are you, Dion?
I'm really good, thank you. Hey, listen, I'm driving around our city of Palmerston North in New Zealand, and I'm seeing pictures of all these strangers saying, vote for me, number one in Palmerston North. They were all strangers to me. I don't know any of them. I don't bump into them when I'm shopping. I don't see them online, and I'm online a lot, as you know, with my background, until I saw you.
Okay. So, and what made you, what made me stand up?
well, obviously, the first thing I saw was you did a video on social media.
Yeah.
And this is my communication channel. This is the communication channel that a lot of us use. Mainstream media, that generation, I have no faith or trust in anymore. However, we still watch it to see what they're doing. But out here, the social power, social justice, social reporting, that side of things is more important. So this is where we are. I don't watch TV. I'm online. And I haven't seen anyone else online. I mean, apart from Jacinda Ardern and Helen Clark, who I'm connected to, but not politically, just because I want to know what they're doing. So when I saw you pop up, here's someone from my community that is willing to come on in my world. And then when I'm shopping, I actually run into you down here in Hukafuru. So I wanted to get to know why you wanted to run for council, and also have a personal and professional experience in the refugee industries from around the world, from being in Iraq and seeing what happened in northern Iraq when Saddam gassed all the Kurds, and helping bring some of those refugees back, to a lot of other refugee places that I've worked in, or I know people from. A lot of my good friends have come out of refugee camps. So when I saw that you were a refugee from Congo, I wanted to meet you because you're a neighbor. So on that note, would you give us a snapshot of your background, please?
Sure. So I was born in the Congo, in a place called Nyanga. So it's in the south west of the Congo. And in 1997, in 1993 and 1997, we had civil wars. So me and my family sort of had to flee from the Congo in 1998 after the war, and migrated to the neighboring country, where we spent 7 years there. The country is called Gabon. So we spent about 7 years there, and we stayed there in a refugee camp as well, until mom and dad sort of, got themselves on their own 2 feet to sort of support ourselves as well, that sort of things. But life was very hard, and plus my education was interrupted. So I've got a very unusual background. So my education was disrupted. I was about 8 years old at the time. My education was disrupted for about 2-3 years. And then my dad figured that it would be better for us to apply for refugee status through the United Nations Refugee High Commission. So he did that, and we had to wait about 10 years for that process to take place, because 7 years, for that process to sort of take place and also be completed, because you had to go through a vetting process. They had to know your background, where you're from, if you ever killed anybody. If yes, then you're not eligible, that sort of thing. They had to do a serious vetting process before we could be accepted. So initially we were meant to go to we were promised to go to the United States, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, but eventually that didn't work out. But suddenly New Zealand immigration officers had come, because they were taking refugees around the world. They happened to come to Gabon, and were looking to take some more refugees, and they looked at our background and decided to take us on board. So from that moment on, we were listed to actually come to New Zealand. So I arrived here in 2006 as a 15-year-old who had no words of English at all, and next to zero English language skills. And came to the Mangere Center in Auckland, where we stayed for about 3-4 weeks. So the process, or the reason for us staying there for about 4 weeks, is for them to sort of do health checks, for us to meet psychologists or social workers, because a lot of us had gone through a lot of trauma, having seen things in the war, people being killed, that sort of things. So, and also to learn about the culture and the laws of the nation, that sort of before we are put into the community, that sort of thing. So we came to Palmerston North. We had no choice. They thought that Palmerston North would be better for us, and because we're quite a big family, a family of 9 at the time. So they thought that, you know, Palmerston North would be a better place for us to thrive, instead of putting us in or leaving us in Auckland as a family. So we came to Palmerston North in February 2006, and we've been here since. So I went to Freiburg High School. The funny thing about Freiburg High School is that when we went to school, I literally didn't know anything. The only words of English that I knew was good morning, how are you, goodbye. Those were the basics at the time. That was 14 years ago. And the reason why we had gone to Freiburg is because they had an excellent ESOL secondary English learning department, an excellent one. So we went there and we learned English, and we spent about 2 years of intensive English learning. That meant also us being a little bit behind on our subjects, because, you know, we couldn't really understand the language and pick it up for sort of educational purposes, that sort of things. And then after that, worked very hard at my English language skills. Went to Massey University in 2011. Got my first degree in 2014. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Politics, Social Policy and Development Studies. And then I thought, I want to challenge myself a little bit more. And why don't I do my master's degree? So I went on to study my master's in 2015 and graduated from that as well. So I did my master's in Politics and International Relations. Mm-hmm. And then went on to work in Parliament under the previous administration, and now I'm working for the Ministry of Education, and now I'm running for public office, so which is a really great thing. So my background is very unusual and very unique as well, because, you know, I've had interruptions in my studies. When I moved to New Zealand, I did 2 years of intensive English learning, which meant that I was behind than most of my peers at school. So I had to work very hard to sort of catch up to them. And it was a lot of hard work, but it finally paid off. So this is where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, you talk through that. That's your life. That's normal. That's your everyday. You move forward.
Yeah.
An 8-year-old spending that amount of time in a refugee camp. Just talk us through, what is the daily routine for that 8-year-old?
Well, the daily routine is that, when the COVID-19 happened and we had to manage isolation, and people were struggling to stay in there for 14 days, you know, and people were literally struggling to stay in isolation for 14 days, and some was escaping, you know, to be in the public and that sort of things. But imagine being in a refugee camp for 7 years, and you have the same restrictions as being, you know, in a quarantine facility. You know, you're not allowed to go out. You're just in the same camp. So, you know, you wake up in the morning, you eat food, and then you probably go to, you know, school within the camp, and then you go back to sleep within the same camp. So that was something very hard to do. And but we sort of gotta we adjusted to that lifestyle, because we had no choice. You know, you get somebody, you know, who flees the country with nothing on their back but the clothes that they have, that sort of thing. You have no choice, you know, but to flee towards safety. And that place of safety is actually being put in a refugee camp before a country can accept you into, a country like New Zealand can accept you to come into, you know, this place. So it was very hard, and you know, the conditions were very rough, because, you know, you do not own anything, and you are at the mercy of your authorities, and you cannot make an income, you know. So life choices are very limiting, that sort of thing as well. So yeah, it's very hard.
The reason I bring that up is for people watching this is I've worked in immigration centres before, and a lot of my good friends were refugees before they came in to do the work. So there's a lot of other stuff that goes on in those camps that people don't talk about. There's the beatings, there's the rapes, there's the thefts, there's the psychological abuse within the actual centre. Like, it's not a nice place to be at the end of the day. So I just wanted to acknowledge and lift you and your family up, to just say well done to get to where you are right now, because unless you've been involved in that, you have no comprehension of it. So when I saw your video of you swanning around in the square, walking around and talking to people, knowing from memory what some of those places are like, I thought, I'm going to give this guy a chance, right? And so moving forward, before we get into these 5 questions, we planned 5 questions that we wanted to talk to. But anyone that's watching, anyone that watches my interviews know they go everywhere. You are extremely grateful for where you are right now. For you and your family. And some of the elephants in the room are you're young, you haven't even had a job yet. How can you run for office? What about all the tough stuff and all the rest of it? And I'm sitting there thinking, because I've seen the comments on some of your posts, I'm just like, if this family can get through that many years in a refugee camp, get a master's degree, and I'm going to just pause there for 1 second. So we talk about having to study. Most of what I do is mental health, right? But what sits behind that is a whole lot of other study that people don't know that I do. And even
now, Pooh speaks.
And even though a lot of people know that I'm not political, I know this lady and I read her stuff and I follow her stuff. And this one you might be impressed with if it's still.
Oh, I've got a. She signed mine. She signed my copy actually.
Yeah, me too.
Ellen Clark. Yeah, I've got a signed copy of that.
Yep, exactly. But this is what you don't know yet, and is the other reason I wanted you here.
Well, I do have some stuff. I do know some stuff on that. My degree was in social policy.
Exactly. So, for everyone watching this, yes, I do mental health and personal health and all the rest of it, but I pay attention to who's in my country and who's running around my neighborhood. So, obviously, this is the main thing here. And this is something I really wanted to talk to, is when I ran into Orphee, he said one of my studies was in social policy. Now, for all the other Kiwis that don't know how this works, and the other reason I want to bring Orphee on here is, unless what is best for the community is legislated, nothing will change.
That's right.
So for those that don't know anything about how the council works, brother, I don't know a lot about how the council works. I pay my rates and I pay my parking tickets. But I don't know, where does the money go for that? Who controls that money? Who decides where that money goes in Palmy? And how does the community have access to that information? How do we influence that? How can we say, hey, listen, can we use some of the rates money to get some of our kids some lunches in schools? How do we, the community, have access to that?
Good. So you've asked how the council sort of works and, how the money. So we pay rates and to be in this city. So that money goes towards a lot of other projects that the council runs. So basically, the councillors delegate the management and administration of the city of those things to the chief executive of the city council and the staff members. So you look at stuff like roadings, and also waste management and cleaning of the environment and all those sort of things that the council is involved in doing. So that's where the money goes for rates as well, and also paying council staff members, those that are picking the rubbish, those that are working in offices, the contractors, and those sort of things. So that's where that money goes as well. And so the council generally acts as the legislative branch of the city government. So they are basically the city government, as well as its policy making body. So they do make legislations called bylaws. Yep. So they decide whether the bar can be open until 3 or 4 p.m. or 4 a.m. And those sort of stuff. And the thing also is that the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that they tend to vote big when it comes to general elections, but they fail to also realize that the council actually has more influence on their pockets, on their lives, more than the government does, because the council determines where you build, how you build it. The council determines where you park and how much you pay for it. The council determines how much you pay for rates and that sort of thing. So there's a lot going on that people really don't understand, and it saddens me that people usually take council matters for granted. So
I do, which is why we're having this interview. I do this globally. Like I deal with people all around the world, and I don't know how things work in my own town. So my attitude has always been, unless it's someone that directly affects my life, I'm not having anything to do with them. I'm a Helen Clark fan, and I'm not associated with her because I like her as a leader. Jacinda Ardern, I like how she communicates, but I'm not a Labour fan. Ron Mark was our favourite Minister for Veterans and Defence because veteran, and he comes from defence. So veteran and military circles, it made sense. But I never paid attention to local. And then when we started focusing on it, we're going to start building those information packs to get out on our network so people know. But if you don't have a communication channel, you can't get this. I don't know when the council meetings are. I mean, I don't generally read mail. I don't generally watch the news. I don't watch TV. I don't even read local papers. You know, I mean, this generation of us, we make our money online and then we relax at home. But now, as we're becoming more influential, people are asking us more questions. Where should I buy? You know, a lot of people want to come to New Zealand. So it's really important to at least inform the local community of how this works. Okay, so let's move on. So we've covered the first question on your snapshot. And this is an interesting question. I've sent it to you. Respectfully, you're not from New Zealand, but you were raised here outside the refugee camp. Do you see yourself as a Kiwi?
Now, I do see myself as a Kiwi, and I do consider myself as a Kiwi. But here's the thing, though. There's a little bit of an identity crisis going on, because I do get asked a lot this question by a lot of people. You know, where are you from? And my initial thing is to probably tell, I'm from New Zealand, that sort of thing. But to Kiwis, I'm not really a Kiwi, because they'll always ask me where you're from. Now, if I was to go back home, for example, if I was to go back home and, you know, and I position myself as a nice guy, you know, Congolese guy, and to them, I'm not Congolese enough, that sort of thing. So I'm kind of in the middle, whereby, you know, to my own people, I'm not, you know, Congolese enough. And then here in New Zealand, where I consider myself to be a Kiwi, I'm not Kiwi enough for some people, that sort of thing. Or people who still struggle.
Let me fix this for you. So let me fix it. Right. So you're a New Zealand citizen, yes?
Yes, I am.
You're a Kiwi.
I am a Kiwi.
Like, no argument. Like, you're a Kiwi, bro. Like you're in the you're a Kiwi. Now, mana whenua is always going to be Māori, right? But you're
definitely
from the Manawatu. You belong now, and you're covered here and that side of things, right? Where your blood is from is always going to be where your blood is from. Now, I look white. There's a Tuatawhale Samoan speaking chief behind me because my father is Samoan and my mother is. So Samoan and English blood beats in this heart, but I'm a Kiwi.
Yeah.
And so when I'm doing my speaking, Oranga Tamariki, when they ask me to do speaker stuff, are like, oh no, we wanted a Samoan guy. I'm like, I am Samoan. You're not Samoan enough. You look too white, right? And then because I got a full Samoan tattoo, if I then go onto the other side, it's like, well, you're not white enough because you got island blood. So listen, everyone's going to pigeonhole you no matter where you go. You decide. So here in the Lion Academy of my network, bro, you're a Kiwi and you're a Congolese guy. So if you ever have an identity crisis amongst us, bro, you're Kiwi. Right, I'll make that easy for you.
Thank you for that. Thanks for making that easy for me, because it's something that I usually struggle with, because somebody always asks me, are you a Kiwi? And I'm like, oh yes. And sometimes I do question myself, am I Kiwi enough for this person? Man, if I tell them that I'm Kiwi.
I get Samoan saying, "Sole, kama Samoan aui," which means, sorry, bro, are you Samoan? I'm like, iwi, kokolua, two bloods, right? No, so Samoan. And so everyone's going to do that. So it doesn't matter who you choose. Now, question 3 is, like, we talked a little bit about this, the elephant in the room. Look, I know you got qualifications. Qualifications don't equal experience. All right? So one of the questions I saw on the post was, what is your understanding of the Treaty of Waitangi? I know you learned it at university, but you haven't lived it. How are you going to implement that, as you go through?
Live it. I live the treaty. One of the reasons being is that, first of all, I do get asked those questions by a lot of also people of Maori background, that sort of thing, because they see somebody like me, who's African and running for public office in their own land, and I would like to respect our mana whenua, and and I do get asked those questions. But my thing is always that we can always give effects to treaty principles and acknowledge it. And I do live it in one way or another, because at my work, I have to be culturally competent and understand my responsibility as a public servant under the Treaty of Waitangi. So I consider the Treaty of Waitangi to be New Zealand's founding document, and it plays a key role in framing the political relationship between the Crown and Tangata Whenua. And I do consider that. But my current role at the Ministry of Education, for example, or even when I worked in Parliament, required me to be culturally competent and understand my responsibility as a public servant under the Treaty of Waitangi, and also give effect to treaty principles in my approach to policy and also operational matters, that sort of things. So, and also when I'm hosting huis, for example, at work, it's always, giving karakia, those sort of things, and acknowledging tangata whenua or mana whenua as well, that sort of thing. And as someone who's seeking public office and wanting to get into the council, I'll seek to bring awareness to the council table to ensure that our mana whenua are consulted and engaged in every decision making, because it's something that a lot of people have been complaining about. One of the key themes emerging from the council table, one of the key theme emerging from the community is that council is not transparent enough or inclusive enough, or they always seem to engage mana whenua during the process and towards the end of the process, and not from the beginning, sort of like the agenda setting process of the policy cycle. And that's something that I'm trying to bring those skills that I've learned through my work experience about being culturally competent to the council table, to ensure that every decision that we have or that we are making or bringing, that we are consulting with a mana whenua. So that's something that I would love to do when I get elected.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I know you'll get to wherever you want to go in some way, shape or form in some sort of time frame. And so to me, that's always the base, honouring mana whenua. But then there's the other side, which is where we're what we're doing with globally local and locally local, is there's got to be an overarching Kiwi thing, right? So a lot of us, we do Farmers for Farmers mental health. We've got every demographic and race and religion within our network. Like my personal network's over 300,000 people just online and around the world, right? Just in my immediate first level connections, it goes out to over 300,000 people. So born and raised in Singapore, weirdly enough, was where I was born and raised. And so I've got a huge connection to Asia Pacific, as well as being a Kiwi. So I want to honour mana whenua, but not everyone is connected to that. So we've got to honour that as the base for sure. And then we've got to have the overarching Kiwi for everyone else. Because if we keep going out here and we keep going between policy for Māori, policy for Pasifika, policy for Somalians, policy for... It's got to split everybody up.
Exactly, yeah.
A house divided amongst itself can never stand. So we have the base of respecting mana whenua of where we are, we're in Aotearoa, as the base in our cultural aspects. And then we have to build something that's inclusive of all Kiwis without one having the lead, but Māori's always got to be the base for our country.
Definitely.
I've seen this in legislation, predominantly in the mental health space, because that's where the budget channels go. Now, I've dealt with Māori TV that heard me give me my pepeha, so, he must be Māori, so let's get him in to do this stuff. He's not Māori, he's Samoan, can't use him. I mean, what do you mean he can't use me? I'm stopping people killing themselves. Yeah, but you're not a Māori. So because our funding comes from the Māori budget. And then I speak to, Tangata Pasifika or Pasifika on that side. It's like, okay, then can we do your mental health program, but for Pasifika? Have you got a Pasifika version? I'm like, if they're a human being that have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, I can help. If you want me to put a Polynesian cover on this and a Māori cover on that, it's just ludicrous to me, right? But legislatively, that's where the funding and the money is. So if you do get in to council, if you are elected in this, and I'm going to vote for you because you're the only one I know. I'm not voting for a bunch of strangers.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Thanks for the support.
You made the effort to do a social media post that came across my desk. I ran into you in my neighborhood. Your parents are actually neighbors of mine not far away. You've come to the refugee, so I know that you've actually got the intestinal fortitude, the stamina and the intelligence to get to wherever you want to go. So you have a shot, and you've showed up for the interview. Now,
thank you.
I know most of the other politicians, they know who I am. No one's approached me to say, hey, Dion, can I jump on your channel? Apart from Ron Mark, it's the only politician that's jumped in, and Helen Clark that's jumped into our Instagram feed and commented and made things. But if you're not in my everyday life, you're not in my community's everyday life, why would I give you my vote? And as an ex-soldier, the amount of pain and blood that's gone into even having the right to vote, it's something that has to be cherished, but the voting only seems to be a small demographic now. So if you do get elected, what's going to be your primary focus? Because we're all human beings, we're driven by our passions and what we really want to do. For you personally, what will be your primary focus if you get elected?
I think I do have a number of priorities as well. I think economic development is one of my key priorities, the infrastructure, environment, and also housing. Those are my key policy areas. But above that, I value Palmerston North's growing diversity. As a councillor, I will engage and listen to you, the public and the community, that sort of thing. And I'll seek to make the council more inclusive, accessible and transparent. So that's what I put above any of my policies, that sort of thing. Community engagement, just getting out there, listening to the people, talking to the with and to the people, that sort of things, getting a sense of how what they think about policy and the council or the city's direction or the future the city's future direction that we're trying to take, that sort of thing. That's most important to me than any of my policy proposals, that sort of thing. So I'd love to get in the community and engage with the community, talk to them on issues that are important to them and bring that to the council table. But yeah.
How are you going to do that?
So one of the things that I'm thinking about doing is like coffee with a candidate or coffee with Orphee, that sort of thing. So also attending community events, talking to key stakeholders within the community as well, and people like yourself who are involved in the mental health space, and others in the disability space as well, and housing, you name it. It's all about that community focus, community centeredness that I'm really going for. That effective representation whereby I'm able to speak to people and give effect to their aspirations, that sort of things. And that's what I'm going to do. Just getting there, going to every single meetings. Invite me. Anyone can invite me, and I always attend to events and talk to them on issues that are important to them, and see how I can be of great use. And I also I have a clear desire to make a positive impact for our community. So that's what drives me, and I'm willing to do that by just having that interaction and building those relationships within the community. Yeah,
absolutely. Now I'm going to throw you a totally selfish prickly pineapple. All right?
Okay, sure.
All right. New Zealand, we do amazing things. We climb Mount Everest first, women's vote, so many good things our country has done. Our successive prime ministers have always promoted how good we are at stuff. We've got the All Blacks, we got this, we got that, got everything else. We are the world losers. We are the global embarrassment for youth suicide. We are the worst country in the world.
After Japan, yeah.
Yep, for youth suicide. So we're number one for youth suicide. Normal suicide is Japan, but youth suicide, we are still number one.
Yeah.
Why is no one talking about that in any area of politics? And how does that affect anything that you're going to be doing in Palmerston North? Because Manawatu Wanganui region, suicide stats, you know them.
Yeah, I do know that very well. And personally, I've had a close friend of mine, my best friend, Luke, who passed away in 2012 while he took his own life, that sort of thing. So that was a painful moment. And there's so much that you can say, oh, I wish I'd done something different, but that's something that's happening, and it is real. And sadly, it's not being taken seriously by our politicians. And one thing that I want to do in Palmerston North is to ensure that we're working with community organizations that deal with mental health and suicide suicide prevention groups within the community, and talk to them and on these sort of issues. And also, in as much as I might have a policy on it, that sort of things, but it's always good to get consultation from the community and finding out how to best approach or deal with this issue, because it is real. It affects a lot of people. Someone in Palmy knows someone who had committed suicide, and it's sad.
Exactly right. And my condolences for your friend. Our frustration out here as solution providers is exactly how you said that. We need consultation with No, you don't. You need to go and find people that already have the solutions and engage them.
Yes.
And that is something, and I knew there was something about you, bro. Like, I just knew that there was a reason why I had to talk to you. And it's the first time that's popped out about your mate. We're dealing with people now. We deal predominantly with people at that suicidal phase, or the families after people have killed themselves. And we interact with all the normal situations. But I watched what happened in this country with Mike King. Mike King got rubbished all the way through, got rubbished that he's a drunk and a druggie and talking about suicide is going to kill our kids, to showing New Zealand and the world that talking about it is absolutely valuable.
Yeah.
He becomes the 2019 New Zealander of the Year, lauded for the mental health work that he's done. And then he is totally whitewashed by New Zealand media with his 1,000 suicide letter review, which gave all the issues that people were dealing with and what we needed to do on. And so those of us that do this globally and in the psychosocial space, we know what the solutions are. I've got a whole solutions community, and the reason why Orphee's in here is because if anyone takes a shot at how young he is and what he doesn't know, there's 30 other speakers in here that are global that have the answers to these questions. So in here now, you're surrounded by people that have stopped people killing themselves and have suicide solutions. Orphee, you have access to all of this now. So what I'm really excited about is at least now we can have these discussions when we're running events here at Keisha Birch House or out on the farms. At least there's someone that we can grab now and say, Orphee, come down, experience what this workshop is and what we're doing, and then put that in your planning cycle. You know, no one else in New Zealand Parliament, apart from Ron Mark, has ever access the pool that we have, and we have a phenomenal global pool that we want to bring down and help out with New Zealand. So I'll just finish off on one question, because I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. And funnily enough, I've got to go boxing soon at the fight club on Church Street. So we are local, and I'm going to lose this and go down there, and Stu and Tash Chambers will have me crying and sweating in about 30 minutes. So I've got to the interview. So the last question that I want to go through is, where can the community get the best benefit from you if you're elected? Just like a member of the community that's going to see this on Facebook and hear this interview. A normal everyday person, some of the people that have commented on your post, where are they going to get a benefit from having you in council for them personally?
For them personally, I think I'm running on a big platform, on a platform that hasn't been matched by any of my competitors, to be honest. Whereas they're listing their CVs and what they've accomplished in their work lives, I'm actually providing a comprehensive plan to tackle some of our most thorny issues. As a public servant and policy advisor, I offer governance experience, and I'm ready to contribute to making our city a better place to live, and also to sort of visit and do business. A vote for me, will send a passionate, practical, and future-focused voice to the council table. My reason for running is because I want to invest in opportunities that will give everyone the choice to stay at home and pursue their dreams at home. Currently, or right now, we have so many young people. As soon as they finish university, they want to leave Palmerston North. They don't want to stay in Palmerston North. And if I was to ask you, give me your top 5 or top 10, cities to visit in New Zealand, Palmy will not be, in that list. Napier would be in there, and yet we're small. We are bigger than Napier. New Plymouth will probably be in there because they advertise themselves so well and they've got so much going on for themselves. But there's a lack of opportunities here in Palmerston North. We are simply seen as this distribution center, but it's about also creating quality jobs for people to want to stay, for that accounting student to want to stay in Palmy, not because he has to move, but because he has a choice to actually stay here, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm running on. And we must also build on our status as an education, innovation, and regional economic hub, and back our local businesses, because local businesses are the backbone of our economy. They're the one employing young people. As I told you earlier, I'm very passionate about young people as well and creating opportunities for them. So local businesses, are the backbone of our economy. And also, I do believe that our growing city requires, an infrastructure upgrade, and we must prioritize on protecting and cleaning our river, that sort of things. So you asked me, what can I do for them? Well, I'm offering them effective representation. experience that some of the other candidates do not have, and solutions oriented policies. I believe that local politics should be about making a city a more livable place. And as a councillor, I'll work collaboratively with stakeholders to deliver pragmatic solutions that will move a city forward. So a strong voice definitely for them is what they'll be looking for in me. And I'll be a strong voice for them and advocate for them on issues that are important to them, and holding the council accountable and making it more accessible, transparent, and inclusive. That's what I'll be doing.
And what I like about that is, because there's going to be some people watching this that are thinking exactly what I'm going to say next. So I like that you prepared those answers. I like that you understand how that works on that side.
Yeah.
And the large demographic of this community that just does not care about a thing you just said.
There'll be those. Yeah.
Because that's all about what you can do. So let me reframe this last question, Orphee, with nothing to do about what you're going to do in council. As a human being, as Orphee Mickalad, what is the benefit for having Orphee as a human being in our city council?
My values and my commitment to public service. I think that's most important to me because I'm inspired by my faith and my sense of integrity and hard work ethic, and that's what people have be looking for me. I think policies do change. I can give you as many policies, promise people as many goodies and lollies and stuff, but I think what's most important are values. I'm driven by a strong sense of public service, and I feel like my integrity and hard work ethics will be a beneficial thing to have for me in the council table and add value to our city's local government. That's all I can say.
And that's good, bro, because that balances, because those that understand how this works will be looking very closely at policies because they understand that.
Yeah.
Most of us don't understand. I want to know who's this person, who's this guy, who's the person I'm going to give my vote to. And listen, if you can get through the life that you've lived in, from Congo to Palmy, and achieve what you have to date with you and your family, from my side of things, you deserve a shot. So you're definitely going to get my vote. I'm not going to tell anyone else to vote for Orphee. I'm just going to say, look at this, and if it makes sense, make your own decision. So I don't promote people. I don't promote anyone in politics, but I make my platform available to have these conversations. And if anyone else watching this actually supports another candidate, if they're smart, they'll be getting in touch with me pretty quick before that election. But in the meantime, for anyone watching this in my circles, anything that I'm going to be doing locally in Palmy, so basically you'll like this, so watch this, Orphee, I'll practice this. Okay, from Waiouru to Wellington, Himatangi to Blackheads Beach, all right? You like that? Mm-hmm. That's the area, that's the target area that my whole network is focusing on locally. That's feeding people, that's helping people with their mental health, and everything we do in that region, we're going to invite you along so that you can see what we do, so that you're part of that as well. Because you have a skill set that we don't have. I don't care how young you are, you understand social policy and you got a degree in it. And it's only, like I said at the start of this interview, unless we can legislate what is best for the majority of the community, nothing will change. And that's where we need to.
So true. No, thank you very much, and thanks for allowing me to be, to come on your platform and be able to share my views and my values and share my story. And I really appreciate it as well. And I love the work you do. Keep it up.
Oh, and, you're very, very welcome. And once I finish boxing and we get through the next couple of weeks of craziness, we'll grab a feed together and we'll get your family over. And whatever happens, we're all going to be neighbours anyway. So let's find something positive out of this. And just well done, mate. Just well done. It's
thank you.
You've done well to get to where you are. The world you're always keep cracking on, and a lot of Kiwis could take a lot from that. So let's see how we go.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Go well. Cheers.